As I remember, in last class, we have discussed till IPv4. Fine. Now, there are few more concepts about IPv4. That is NAT or natting and proxy. Fine. Now, fine. As you all have seen, there are many IP addresses, but these IP addresses are not up to the mark into numbers because after development in IT infrastructure, we have a requirement of too many IP addresses. That's why IPv4 is not sufficient. Now, developers team has developed few more things by which we can use few ranges of IP address again and again. And in spite of using same IP address in different networks, there should not be any conflict. Fine. But how? By subnetting, by VLSM. Okay, fine. These subnetting and VLSM are also suitable for proper use of IP address. But actually, I was talking about how we can use IP address again and again. Same series of IP address should be used in different networks, and there should not be any conflict. Fine. First of all, I'm going to discuss about natting and proxy. Then after, I will use subnetting, VLSM, and supernetting. Fine. Now, have I given you task? No. Maybe I have given this task in another time. See. If you will think about ISP connection, means for internet service. Suppose these three users are taking connection from any ISP. It doesn't matter that is BSNL, VI, Geo Fiber, anything. And in this case, you have this kind of router, which can give you connectivity on wire and without wire also. Look, if there are many nodes, and these all nodes are able to access internet, and in this condition, you will see that this PC has also 192.168.0.2 IP address. Same IP will be used at this machine also, 0.2, same IP address, 0.2. Fine. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In all these three networks, same IP addresses can be used, but there is no conflict. If I am going to use same IP address into a single network, in that case, for example, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, what will happen? There is a conflict. Conflict means conflict means collision. Suppose that his name is Sonu, his name is also Sonu, and his name is also, your name is also. These four students' name is Sonu. Now I am giving a call. Sonu, please come with me. There is a conflict. Sir, which Sonu? Fine. Now, there will be a huge conflict. No any node will able to access network or transfer data. But in this case, there is no conflict. How? Sorry? Gateway is used everywhere. Default gateway is also same. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Yes. Public IP is different, definitely. Suppose this one is 11.2, this can be 12.2, sorry, .2. What happened with my mark? 12.2, sorry, 13.2. And at this end, suppose 11.1, 12.1, and 13.1. Fine. As per your concept, if this PC will request for Gmail, this PC will request for Flipkart, this PC will request for Amazon. In that case, this IP address will carry this request to the Gmail server. This IP will carry this request to the Flipkart server, and this IP will carry this request of this machine for Amazon. But is there any process? Is there any technique? Is there any protocol that is responsible to convert the local node request into the public IP address, and public IP address will carry it through the router? Router is a machine, but any machine can work with an application. Getting? This is a computer, okay, fine. But there are two components in a computer. One is hardware, second is software. See, NAT is used at this machine, at these routers. NAT, I have already taught you in Cisco. I have shown you practical also. Static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, everything. Fine. Now in brief, NAT means network address translation. Address translation. Simple, converts. What NAT does? Converts local IP into outside IP. And this NAT uses a NAT table to keep record which IP addresses was converted. Suppose, for example, protocol. NAT is a service. Fine. Here, local IP is 192.168.0.2. But it will be converted into 11.0.0.2. Then fine. 11.0.0.2 is a global unique IP. Now it will carry the request to the Gmail server, and Gmail server will reply 11.0.0.2. When reply will come to this router, then there is a NAT table. With the help of that NAT table, the request will transfer from this router to a specific node, means this node. Clear? And same thing is done at this router and at this router also. This is NAT. And definitely it increases security. Increases security. How? Because in outside network, nobody is aware that which node is requested. Because if data packet will be traced, in that case, tracer will get information about 11.0.0.2. Fine. So NAT also helps us to hide our internal node. Fine. And for this NATing process, just going to change my marker. It's not working. Good. Now, types of NAT. C. First type is static NAT. And this NAT a specific local IP is translated into a specific outside IP. And it is done manually. Means in a static NAT, we can select which node's IP address will be converted into outside IP. That's why I have written a specific local IP address is translated into a specific outside IP. And it is done manually. This is a manual. I have to define which local IP and which outside. But if we have to do it with multiple IP addresses, multiple local IP addresses, in that case, we use dynamic NAT. Local IP address multiple local IP address is translated into outside IP address. Fine. Automatic work. After few configuration, like configuration of ACL, access control list, and a pool of public IP address, this translation is done automatically. Whenever any node will request for any website, its IP address will be converted into public IP address. Then its request will be carried with the public IP address to the specific service.
Same public address or
change public IP address. Fine. In these two cases, you have requirement of one local IP and one outside IP. Means there is a wastage of IP address. For one communication, we have to use two IP addresses for every node. That's why developers have given third type of NAT. Third one is PAT. Yes. Port address translation. Port address translation and all what happened? Local IP address can be translated into single outside IP address. Now, this is completely beneficial for us. We have a requirement of only one outside IP, means public IP, and we can convert or translate every. There is no limitation. Limitation is limitation can be 65,535, 36 total. You can translate 65,536 local IP addresses into a single outside IP address. That's why now this PAT is only used in all networks. But how, sir? Again, every node will request with the same IP address.
Yeah.
Then there will be a heavy confusion. Which node is requesting for which site? That's why this PAT uses port number. Uses
more than one node existing by same port.
It will never be done.
So what? Different SAM if the paper is different.
I'm talking about port right now. Have you idea? I have stated it that every node will request with the same port. Have you idea about number of ports? How many? Then
So,
every node can request with different port numbers?
so can be, but maybe it could be SAM.
No. How it can be so?
So like I'm requesting by 8080.
Fine.
So requesting that SAM group.
That both are in the same network,
No, so
in different networks. It's okay if he is in different network. In that case, public IP will be different. No. Then there is a failure of PAT. If PAT is providing same port number to every node or more over 2 or 3 nodes, it means PAT is not working well. In dynamic NAT, no port number is used. For every translation, you have to use a separate public IP address.
So if there is
I'm just discussing about the PAT. Okay, fine. And no, you should not discuss right now. Fine. It uses port number. Then what will happen? Fine. Suppose you have node 192.168.0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, and so on. For all these nodes, there is a single public IP address that is suppose 11.0.0.3. Fine. Now, if this node is requesting this node, this node, this node, and all these nodes, then PAT will provide, for example, port number 10, port number 11, port number 12, port number 13, port number 14, 15, 16, and so on. Fine. Now, these all PCs can request for different website by using these port numbers and this public IP address. Now, fine. It has many queries, like it has query of Gmail, Flipkart, Amazon, Hotmail, Google. Fine. Then it will carry this request, but in this request, it will mention that this request is from port number 10. This request is from port number 11, from 12, from 13, from 14, and so on. Finally, when Gmail will reply to this IP address. And when that reply will come to this router, then router will check this step. Okay, fine. What is the port number? Port number is 10, and 10 is related to 0.3. So reply will go to PC which has IP address 192.168.0.3. Fine. In next case, in next network, if same thing will be done, same sites, everything, even port number is also same. But in second case, public IP will be, for example, 12.0.0. There is no conflict. Fine. Now it is clear. What is it about what?
as I have understood that there is overload of work. Means there is many works like first convert it IP to code and then code to the public address.
Fine.
And in this network and netting, I have seen that one is local addresses directly converted to the public IP. Then what is the need of port number if there is?
Because we have to save the IP address.
So
if for communication we are going to use two IP addresses for single communication, means there is a wastage of IP address.
So in this network, we are not using
Yes, in this network also a specific local IP and a specific outside IP.
So per node is a specific IP.
Definitely.
So
Per node.
If one public IP address is provided by the ISP to the router and we are connecting by the router, then there is no public IP.
But it is possible when you will translate every node into the single IP address, public IP address. In this case only, you have no requirement of more public IP addresses.
If NAT table is created, then that in the given NAT table, it will store that what type of sites they want to hit.
You can use Hindi also.
So यहाँ पे टेबल जब क्रिएट किया जाता होगा वहाँ पे ये स्टोर किया जाता होगा कौन सा आईपी किस साइट्स पर हिट करना चाह रहा है
ना नहीं, तुम स्विच नहीं करो, तुम आ जाओ उसी टॉपिक पे जिस पे तुम बात करना चाह रहे हो.
वही तो सर नेट टेबल में क्या रखता होगा.
मैंने ऑलरेडी नेट टेबल क्रिएट करके दिखाया था कि नेट टेबल में ये रखता है. No, you have not missed. Right now I am teaching. Right now I am teaching it.
So then only two things it will store.
Only two things.
Why are you?
No. Use Hindi. Use Hindi.
ये क्या है कि पब्लिक एड्रेस दिखाना है. एक पब्लिक एड्रेस से all
यहाँ मैंने कहीं मेंशन नहीं किया है. अगर ऐसा मेंशन करना होता तो मैं इधर क्यों लिखता, फिर यहाँ पे ऑल से आया हूँ. वन बाय वन एवरीबॉडी इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग इट. ओके, कि यहाँ पे एक लोकल आईपी को एक पब्लिक आईपी चाहिए, यहाँ पे भी वही चीज चाहिए, लेकिन यहाँ पे मैनुअल किया. दोनों के केस में मैनुअल है, लेकिन इसमें क्या है कि मैनुअल टास्क करना पड़ेगा तो बहुत लंबा टास्क हो जाएगा. यहाँ पे उसके लिए कुछ ऑटोमेशन का चीज डाल दिया कि भैया मैं दे दूंगा तुम्हें एक रेंज कि ये इतने सारे मेरे पास पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेसेस हैं और इतने सारे आपके लोकल आईपी एड्रेसेस इन्हें बदल दो, तो ये काम ऑटोमेटिकली होगा. लेकिन फिर भी तो सेम ही रह गया, सिर्फ एडमिन टास्क कम कर लिया. इसमें रेंज दे देंगे हम. Outside IP.
Many addresses converted to many outside.
Okay, I'm going to write it here. No, you are confused at different points. Actually, I'm not getting your question till now because you are just switching from one question to another question, another question to another question.
I understand that only one public IP is provided to a network, and the network is divided into another local IP address, and they were used only one public address to reach the insights.
Okay, fine. Now it is clear. Okay, good. Fine. And I have given all theoretical and practical knowledge in your CCNA. I have shown practical of all these things. Even output also, NAT table also. I have shown everything. But this is the theory paper. Huh? Right now it is very difficult for all of you to digest it. Fine. This is NAT. That's why NATing is so much important. without netting, it is not possible in all over the world to establish a large network to give connectivity to each and every user. Now we are very comfortable in every every network. You will see the same IP address, but in spite of same IP address, there is no conflict. And we are enjoying internet service or any other network. One more thing. One student was forcing me to write here public IP address, but every time I have written outside IP address. Actually, there is a concept. That concept is, even if you will use a single public IP address to translate every node's local IP, there is no sufficient IPv4 address to give a single public IP to every user, every organization, every company. Now, in these days, everybody would like to get an internet connection if his pocket allows it. Huh? Suppose if Reliance has declared that, okay, fine, he is going to provide geo connection at the 100 rupees per month, and there is no installation charge, then you will see everybody was just rushing for getting an internet service. Everybody, if there is requirement or no requirement, then what will happen? There is no too much of public IP. That's why ISPs use translation of local network private IP address into outside private IP address again. Means the real case is this. There is no 11. There is only 10. And 10 is also a private IP address. This is not a public IP address. इस केस में दरअसल नेटिंग में आपको दे दिया जाता है 192 एंड आपको जो कनेक्शन दिया जाता है वो भी मिलता है प्राइवेट आईपी पे ही, वो होता है 10 का या 172 का। तो ट्रांसलेशन किस चीज का? एक प्राइवेट का दूसरे प्राइवेट में। अब ऐसा क्यों किया जाता है? ऐसा इसलिए किया जाता है क्योंकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा कनेक्शन दिया जा सके प्राइवेट आईपी का ही इस्तेमाल करके। तो फिर बात आती है कि सर यहां तो दिमाग लगा लिया कंपनी ने, सर्विस प्रोवाइडर ने, कि 192 सीरीज का आईपी लोकल नेटवर्क ले दे देंगे और कनेक्शन देने के लिए भी प्राइवेट आईपी में ही क्लास ए या बी यूज कर लेंगे। लेकिन फिर तो ऐसा ही प्राइवेट, क्योंकि प्राइवेट तो कोई भी यूज कर सकता है, देयर इज नो नीड ऑफ एनी रजिस्ट्रेशन। तो फिर आईएसपी इसी टास्क को, इस नेट को यहां भी परफॉर्म करती है और इस नेट को यहां भी परफॉर्म करती है। तब कहीं जाकर के जब ये नेटिंग का टास्क शुरू करती है तो ये यूज करती है पब्लिक आईपी। तब कहीं जाकर के इतने कनेक्शन चलते हैं। जैसे अगर आप खुद ही सोच लो कि मुझे बिजनेस करना है, मैं अपना एक इंटरनेट सर्विस अपने मोहल्ले में, अपने एरिया में शुरू करना चाहता हूं। मेरा घर छपरा है, पूरे छपरा में मैं शुरू करना चाहता हूं। यू विल डू द सेम थिंग। आप 1, 2, 4 हार्डली पब्लिक आईपी लोगे। लेने के पीछे और भी लॉजिक है, क्यों एक से ज्यादा लेंगे, कंपनियां लेती हैं। और फाइनली डबल नेटिंग यूज करोगे, सबको इंटरनेट दोगे, सब जब अपनी पब्लिक आईपी चेक करेगा तो सबको 10 के रेंज का दिखाई देगा, और जब लोकल आईपी चेक करेगा तो 192। उसी में से कोई पढ़ा लिखा बंदा होगा, कंफ्यूज होगा, तरीके दोनों देगा तो ये प्राइवेट ही यूज कर रहा है। तो करता क्या है, डबल नेटिंग करता है। और फाइनली एक पब्लिक आईपी इतने सारे कनेक्शंस देने को तैयार। ये एक स्मार्ट यूज था आईपी। इस तरह के दिमाग अगर नहीं लगाए गए होते तो घर घर इंटरनेट नहीं। और बहुत ही वाइटल रोल प्ले करता है ये थर्ड ऑप्शन। फाइन। एंड now one more thing is proxy. You all have seen it at your phone also. There is a proxy setting. What is proxy? We will discuss in next class. Fine. That's why I was requesting every student, please read these add-on papers carefully. But nobody was caring about it. It's okay. This is that. But क्या add-on में we are talking about Akbar, Babur, Birbal? No, sir. Akbar is not related to IP because Akbar was not using any phone or laptop.